It is connecting still. All right. Looks like YouTube is on. All right, doesn't matter. Okay, cool. So, where shall we begin, I suppose? Let me just save this file. Synchronize. And then we can begin. Just 1 second. Save this as Projects Horizon Pack 2. Good to go. Good. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read your question again, just to get into it. I hope you guys are doing well, and I have a couple of questions myself today that I want to ask you guys because I don't have much. I'm still learning about concept art and make painting, so I have some questions for you as well. But today's question, we're going to focus principally on the following, which is basically this: to enter into the digital design industry for a first job or internship, what are things that you need to do for, like, an example as a first portfolio or presenting work or volume of work needed? What are the different skills that you need for entering into the animation, game design, or visual effects industry? So that's a good question, Zach. And your context was basically you're in a design university, general design, but you're not sure how to get into the specifics of the industry, correct?
Yeah, totally right.
All right. So I guess let's begin, I suppose. Let me bring up like a presentation or something that I've been working on. And I'm going to just go through some fundamentals, I suppose. So when you talk of the industry, what do you consider the industry? What is the industry for you? The the games industry, or the other? What is it? So first we gotta like.
I mean, I listed. Sorry, it's really loud and
No, no
I
worries.
listed. So this, as I see it, this one of the three major ones that at least I was interested in, just because they use. I know they use subtly different areas of software, or at least they use software in different ways. Between them, I don't know. Someone please prove me wrong, but between them, they seem to pick up most of the skill sets in digital, like within the digital realm. Like within game industry, you have a whole list of, um, just within there, you have basically every pipeline you can possibly imagine. But and the same with the other two as well. But they end up as slightly different things. So I just use them as an example, just because they're quite wide ranging. But I don't know the subtle differences to sort of get into each of them. Makes sense.
All right, cool. Well, I guess like to understand where you want to go and how you want to contribute to the industry and how you want to fit in, I guess you could say, you got to understand what is the industry. So I've kind of like broken it up into chunks where you have visual effects, game, and animation, general animation. So I usually break it up into like 4 or 5 categories. One of them is in the education sector. The other one's the publicity center or sector. One is another about linear storytelling. Linear storytelling is basically movies, TV, um, even like books, other things, books with illustrations, anything, or short films, even just like a web series, anything that has a linear storyline would be linear storytelling, which is quite a large sector, mostly entertainment. And then there's the industry. The industry things could be like commercials, showcases, product breakdowns, processes, different types of like machine manufacturing processes or different things like that. So there's different industry, also like design, branding, things like that. And then there's the publicity aspect, which is kind of like commercials, marketing, different types of areas concerning even web design and things that is more public, right? Then you have the education sector, which is kind of like material that people use in schools or to teach people, documentaries, or similar to an industry concept, but more pushed towards teaching people different things, motion graphics, infographics, things like that. So I divide them into like 4 different groups. Both of these apply for visual effects and animation. Visual effects just uses a concept of audio visuals. So you record footage from people or from scenery, and you edit the footage and you enhance the footage using CG generated compositing. That would be my concept of what is visual effects. Is kind of a mixed medium, and animation is purely CG, basically. But they have the same industries: education, publicity, linear storytelling, and industry. So when you use audiovisual, it opens up to many different subsectors. So for example, you're inside the concept of design. So design, you could have AR design, VR design, product design. You could have architecture. It opens up into a whole bunch of subsectors. But as you can see, there's like a top level, which is your visual effects up here. And then there is the second level, which is like the sector in the industry. And then you have your third level, which is the type of products or design of elements that you're working on. And then there's like a fourth level. It's like, okay, the nuances of that type of product. So architecture could have its own nuances of AR and VR and web page, or a walkthrough, interactive walkthrough, or like a video walkthrough, or you could have like a simulation of world location and weather, different things like that. There are a lot of different things. Structural simulation, where you stress test the physics of your architecture. So if you understand that the industry is a very broad topic, then you can understand, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? And how do I want to do it? So that goes into the next question. What is the industry? You got to understand basically the different areas. Who are you? Slink says in the chat. Right, so the next question is that we want to like figure that out, like just so that you understand what to do and how to do it, is what can I offer? And what do I want to do? And basically, what am I good at? That's basically the same question as what can I offer? So in this case, the first one you want to talk is, what do you want to do? Basically, this is your vision. You need to have a vision. So you as an artist, you might love to work with environment art. Hello, Doggud.
Hello.
Welcome to the Q&A. We're just discussing an interesting question about what to do to get into the industry of visual effects, games, and animation in the CG world. What do you need to like figure out? So basically, we just covered, and you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. You need to understand what is the industry you want to get into. And then you also need to ask yourself, what do you want to do? Create a vision. Pardon the jet flying overhead. Yeah. So basically, when you make a business, everybody says, make a vision. What is your vision? What is your mission? But this also applies to freelancing or being an artist in the CG world. Like, technically, if you ask yourself, what do you want to do? You can give yourself a dream. So this dream could be, I want to capture all the Pokemon or something like that. I want to do environment art for Epic Games or something like that, or for cinema. So hyper-realistic environment art, so cinema, visual effects. You understand the industry, that you like visual effects, and you want to do environment art or matte painting for cinema visual effects. This is your dream. You've always wanted to do this. This is something you wanted to do, and that's when you wanted. That's kind of like your ambition, your big dream, a dream coming true. You would be super happy. This could be like working in a big studio in Canada, for example, or it could be creating a studio in your country that does this very well and gets work with Marvel eventually, or Star Wars, or maybe it's like you want to become an environment director at Blur Studios. You know, it could be super specific or super general. It doesn't really matter. So in this case, once you have a vision of where you want to go or what you want to do, then you think, okay, so what can I offer, or what do I need? This is the next question. What do I need to get there? All right. How do I get to my how do I get to this goal that I have in my mind? So in this case, this is the concept of a mission. A mission is kind of like the how, right? The how. So the vision is kind of like, why do you want to be in the industry? Why do you want to do this? Like, do you want to be a character artist? Do you want to like create stories to entertain children and teach them about living together and the cognitive biases so that the world becomes a better place? Or is it something more tangible? I just want to make $30,000 per year at least by modeling, you know, something like that. It could be, that's your vision, and then you focus on your mission. How do you do this? So for example, let's choose the one about being an environment artist for cinema visual effects. Let's focus on this one. So environment art and matte painting for cinema visual effects. What do you need to do? You need to understand software like Unreal Engine, which is good for environment art. Vue is a really good one, or TerraGen. Both are very good. Another software is called Gaia. So you need to learn basic things with Unreal Engine, with the software. So with Unreal Engine, you need to learn skyboxes. You need to understand how to do scattering. You need to understand how to make materials with rocks and moss and stuff. Yeah, you need to learn how to make rocks. You also probably could do this procedurally, or sculpt them. So that means you need to learn something about sculpting. And then you start thinking, okay, so you start putting in some guidelines of what you need to do, and learn these softwares. So in this case, okay, so what do you need to get there? You need to learn the tools. Learn the tools. That's the first thing you need to figure out. So after that, you have a map of what you need to do with learning the tools, and then from there you also need to learn the fundamentals, the art fundamentals. Or you can learn how to use photo scanned assets or different things like that, or even how to photo scan assets, how to fly a drone, and how to scan different terrains from your local area or things like that. So now you got to learn the fundamentals. So for example, with environments, you have story, which is life and death and decay. So that means you need to make sure you understand how decay works and how entropy works in an environment. So if you make an environment fully new and polished, then that's going to be not so realistic and unbelievable, and the environment won't tell a story, and it won't be as immersive as creating an environment which shows life and death and decay, a story that will complement the visual effects in the cinema. So you need a concept of story, life and death and decay. You need to understand your composition. You need to understand colors and lighting. You need to understand the interaction of materials like grunge, AO dirt, splashback mud, and all of the different concepts of how to do this inside this particular software so that everything fits together, right? So you understand the fundamentals of environment design, and that's what you would need to study or at least figure out. And then from there, your mission is to show your skills. So if you learn everything like the tools and the fundamentals, well, who's going to know, right? You could do this in a dark cave and then nobody will ever find out. So in this case, you need to start working on portfolio. Does it need to be a lot or a little? Doesn't really matter. I mean, just make the most of your time. But basically, portfolio is just show what you can do. And this means set expectations. So for example, your expectation is, I want to make a jungle environment, right? To showcase that you can be the jungle environment artist for any type of cinema that requires jungles, right? And it's a concept, or it's an actual interactive world for gaming instead, right? So you would do an Unreal Engine, or you can render them out in Vue, which is really good, or TerraGen, which is also really good for mate painting of cinema. So you want to make a jungle environment for cinema, visual effects. Okay, so it's a mate paint. So you set your expectation, and then you showcase your product, your end result of that particular thing. This could be your first minimum goal. Is like you just made something for someone or an idea, like it doesn't have to be that. It could be for a client and they allow you to show it, great. Or it could be for an arbitrary goal like this, I want to make something. And then you show it. You showcase your product online. Twitter, Facebook, ArtStation, especially in ArtStation. Even do it on Upwork, or do it on Freelancer, do it on, make a banner for an email, make it images for Discord, make yourself a website, with a portfolio. Instagram, yeah, Instagram works as well. I sometimes get clients from there, not often. Website, etc. Just put yourself out there, whatever you have, and showcase your product and show the best. So for example, get some feedback from the artist community. So you're an environment artist, so you go to the Discord of Dynasty. Dynasty is a really good environment art Discord server, really big community. They have a lot of amazing environment artists there. So you get some feedback, and they will help you to do a good job and show the best. So don't show something you're not proud of, pretty much. You can if you want to do like blogging and all of that, but like for the goal of like getting work, there's no need to make a 2-minute video with everything you've done. It's better 30 seconds of the best things you've done than a 2-minute video of everything you've done. So chop out the not complimentary stuff. Use a sword, be brutal, as I told a friend a while back. Well, not long ago. Be brutal. So showcase your product and show the best. And set your expectations and show what you can do. So that means make the thing. You've learned all the tools, you learned the fundamentals, or at least enough to reach your goal. So now you need to show your skills with your portfolio. Once you're good with that, the bare minimum is you have one project that's done and it's completed based on the goal that you want and where you want to go. So you have your vision, and you want to be the environment art made painting for cinema. So you have that one goal, you made one product for that, and you showed your skills. So now from there, you can ask yourself, what can you offer? What are you good at? So in this case, maybe you're good at stylized environment art, or maybe you're good at realistic environment art. Maybe you're very good at like post-apocalyptic environment art. You have like a particular style that you're really good at because you're passionate about it, and that's something that you want to showcase. So you understand what you offer, you know your value. So when you know your value, you got to get in and start thinking about all of this. But now we're going into like more deeper, more nuanced type of answers to that question. So let me just go back to the question here. Whoops. Okay. The question is, portfolio, presenting work, volume of work, and different skills needed for entering the animation, game design, and visual effects. Okay, so just to summarize, to know what to do is like you have your vision nice and clear, and you have a mission. And to understand, the mission is very relative to your vision. And the vision is very relative to how you know the industry. And that is relative to basically how the people that you know, the investigation that you've done about that particular industry, and I guess like how curious you are about how the industry works. So it all is like a ladder of questions and a ladder of information. So if you want to know how should you create your portfolio, is based on those particular order of questions. What is the industry your portfolio is for? What do you want to do with your portfolio? And then what is the quality of the skills and things that you need to do to create that portfolio to show your skills? But the end goal is basically show that you can provide a need for a particular person who works in that particular industry. And that particular person could be a company, it could be a director, it could be a co-worker, it could be a client, it could be your neighbor who's designing a lawnmower for grass cutting and he needs to illustrate it. Or it could be somebody on Freelancer. If you understand what is the industry and their needs, and you kind of have a vision of things you want to do, then the mission of how to do it becomes a lot clearer. So Zach, have I been too ambiguous, or does this answer your question? Would you like to go deeper into some particular topic about that?
I mean, this is fantastic. I don't know how you do this. I don't know if this off the top of your head or not. But this is like the smoothest rant I've ever seen. It's amazing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. All right.
Oh
Well,
yeah. Sorry.
I'm
I don't
glad it
know.
helped. Actually, it
Yeah, no,
was
it's
kind of part of my head. I just thought it out.
yeah. I was just with the question of what do you want to do? Should you make that known to places in which you're applying to, or simply use it as a way to sort of motivate yourself to do the work to get to this place?
This is
Um,
internal manifestation. You don't need to
yeah,
tell the world what you want to do. In fact, I recommend you don't.
yeah.
Um,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the reason being is because the brain works with dopamine, and dopamine is the anticipation of doing a task. So if you tell somebody your anticipation of your vision all the time to everyone, your brain gets a kick of dopamine, and then all of a sudden you lose motivation. So if you keep your vision to yourself and keep the anticipation cooking all the time, you'll be more motivated to fulfill your vision. So a vision is kind of like an internal drive to push you forward. As a company, to generate trust, you need to make your vision public. And it's good to have it not there to kind of like generate a sense of trust with the company. But you as an individual, this vision is kind of like what you want to do with your life, right? Like it's what makes you you. So this is kind of an internal decision, an internal exploration or internal choice of something you want to do and something you need to cherish. Look, keep it close to your heart. Because if you tell it to everyone, it kind of spoils the plan, spoils the dream, because you just spent all your dopamine telling somebody about it. But now you need to work on the smaller tasks and things. So you need to like kind of trick yourself to motivate yourself. So I recommend you keep it yourself. There's nothing wrong with sharing it, but like it's for you. This is your vision. So Slink asks a very valid question in response to that. And he asks, what if you have no idea what you want to do? Everyone asks this question, and especially when you're coming out of school or you're a young kid and you're like, you're still living with your parents, or you haven't like got a job before, or you're You're just learning how to use Blender for the first time, right? Just doing your first model and you're not sure you want to do it. If you don't know what to do, go back to step number 1. What is the industry? Learn, study. In this case, it's like, okay, when I was a kid, I'll give you a metaphor, right? When I was a kid, I was 13 years old, right? And this is when computers were starting out, and I had already used a lot of computers, but I've only used them for games. But I played a lot with Lego, and I love to draw, and I used to, part of my education was writing stories every day as a writing exercise. So I had to make up stories and illustrate them as part of my education. That was my schoolwork sometimes, writing stories. And I played with Lego dinosaurs. I was a big fan of Jurassic Park. I was a big fan of Star Wars. I was a big fan of Flight of the Navigator and Back to the Future and like Toy Soldiers and all of these childhood staples from the 90s. So my childhood, I lived in a fantasy world, right? I drew my designs and I even did Lego robotics with Technics and stuff. So my childhood was something that I had a lot of fun with. So that's something I enjoyed. So how did I know I wanted to do 3D? Well, maybe it was good luck because my dad was like, you know what, try this 3D software. You know, Lego is limited and very expensive, but 3D is unlimited and free. So give it a go. And I did. It's like, change your gaming time for something creative because you used to have a lot of fun, you know? It's like, hey, you're right. I did like to have fun playing with Lego and blocks and soldiers and dinosaurs and spaceships and stuff. So from my concept of enjoyment, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to continue enjoying what I grew up with. So that kind of helped me decide what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, mainly because my vision was basically something like that, you know, continue telling stories if I can. And to do that, I need a business and I need a team of artists and I need to teach people how to do art and get them working with me and working with open source software and things like that. So all of this vision that I had from what I wanted to do as a kid transfers to what I want to do now as an adult.
I'm here. What's going on?
Yeah, pretty good piano.
Hello here, I'm Dad.
So Slink, does that answer your question?
Yes.
So if you don't know what to do, well, you just gotta like remember what you enjoy doing, and use that as a foundation to make choices and a strategy for a vision, or even use that as creating a vision. Make sense? Pardon?
So this is the Q&A,
Yes.
right?
Say that again.
This is the Q&A, right?
Correct.
So like what questions can we ask about? Like what can we ask about?
Basically anything really about art and the technicalities around it. Anything about Blender or the industry that you like to get through, or you know how to apply philosophy to art. Could be anything you want really, and we can just any of us can answer these questions, and we can hive mind it. Sometimes I prepare an answer like today, since we got the question earlier in the week, which I think is very good.
Sick.
Yeah, this has been great to raise. I would add to what you were saying there for Slink. Like, if you don't know what you want to do, then I mean, that's great. I mean, just explore. You know,
Yeah.
go try to create a character. Did I like that? You know, try to create an environment. Did I like that? And see which one, you know, which one or ones speak to you, and then follow those more deeply.
Yeah, I mean, knowing what you want is kind of like going back to childhood and just playing around, you know, doing different things, being imaginative and creative and explorative and curious. And then you figure out what you want to do. Because you've played many different games. You were a cowboy once. You were somebody's ones. You were a pretend family member, or you were a soldier, or a dinosaur, or a lizard. You know. So once you figure that out, like just explore, ask, search around, see what's out there, know the industry, play around with different things, experiment. That's how you figure out what you want to know, because experience gives you a context for your enjoyment in life.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is your opinion on CGI replacements for older films, and what in your from your point of view is like essential for basically like remastering like with like CGI of like an old film effect or something along those lines?
Who? Does anyone here want to answer that before I give it a shot?
Got some pretty.
Go ahead, Marty.
I've got some pretty strong opinions on that, but I'm not sure they're very useful.
All right, well, let's hear it. And then, Doggod, you wanted to answer that too, right?
I actually said no, but whatever.
Oh, okay. All right, so Marty, go ahead.
So here's the problem with remastering. It goes all the way back to I've forgotten his. Oh, Ted Turner bought up all those black and white films, and he was going to colorize them, and that turned out to be a terrible idea because colorizing a lot of black and white films, especially people like Hitchcock who deliberately worked in black and white even when they could have worked in color, destroys the artist's original intent. And so a lot of remastering, and you see this more in audio than you do in movies, but a lot of remastering tends to try to improve something that's not really the critical part of the film. And so I think that most attempts at remastering are going to fail because the people wanting to remaster are more interested in their new technology than they are in the story the original storyteller was trying to tell.
I totally agree. I would also ask you about the second question, which was like I'm gonna kind of reframe because of your answer. If it were to be necessary under some sort of circumstances, if like maybe the effect was it's a beloved film and maybe the director or whoever was behind the camera didn't get the effect that they wanted to achieve, what in your opinion would be essential to like achieving like this remastered effect, either CG or some sort of way? Like, what would you say is maybe like a few essential things to keep in mind?
Well, I have a pretty draconian opinion of that. Is if the original director used an effect that didn't work, he made a bad movie. And now he's trying to salvage a bad movie, and he'd be better off making a different one. And my example for this, where he didn't make a bad movie, is George Lucas going in and screwing around with E.T. because he didn't want guns in it anymore. Didn't fix the story, didn't improve anything, made a lot of people unhappy.
Thanks. Somebody's asking in the chat if it's okay if I trace before you give your take.
Sorry, my computer is blocking up. 1 second. Whoa. Give me a moment, my computer froze. Damn it. Why did it crash? Alright, you guys still there?
time, like except like it would fit with the rest of everything. I see a lot of. I'd say that's the reason why the Star Wars effects look so bad, is because a lot of the times the frame rate is just way too high and the movements are way too how do I say, kind of like ease in, ease out. It's a bit
It's like
too
with
smooth.
interpolation.
I
Like when you
wouldn't say
interpolate a clip with AI.
not really. Because interpolation is basically if you're like interpolating like FPS, frame rate, like how if you guys have seen on YouTube, people have done the MCU scenes, a lot of MCU scenes, and they've made them 60 FPS. It's more of a conversion. This is more of you're adding on something, which has a higher frame rate, which just makes it stand out.
All right. So I guess I'm going to rephrase the question just a little bit to see if I can get on point. I just had a RAM choke, so I missed out a big chunk of the text just now, or the chat that you just had. But just to clarify, you asked a question, what is my opinion on CG remastering? And your second question is, what do you need to keep in mind to do good remastering? Is that the second question?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so I just watched a really interesting video about this yesterday, actually, about cinematography and the concept of frame rates and things like that. And also with Marty's topic of like recreation and creativity and actual storytelling and medium, some things you need to keep in mind. So what do you need to keep in mind to do a good remaster? So in my opinion, just like with music, is like I'm very nihilist in this case. Like you can do whatever you want. And people sometimes do great remixes of music and sometimes people do not. And it's in some ways it can be a problem with technique, and other times it could be a benefit of creativity to kind of inject new life into something that has been old. So for example, with music, you get lo-fi, where you take samples from the 80s, from the 90s, and you resample them in the early 10s or in the 20s to create new music. So you have lo-fi hip-hop, you have lo-fi house, and some DJs and producers, they hate it. They think this it's sacrilege where you take music from the late 80s and early 90s and you remaster them and you remix them and you recreate them into new music. But some of this music's great. There is a big trend with cinema right now as well, is where they're remastering or they're recreating or they're redoing a lot of old classical franchises where as a kid we watched them with a context that was completely different, with a different world history, different story, and a different type of contextual enjoyment, so that when we re-watch it, the context is completely different. So our subjective understanding of that particular film, even though it might